Hey, what's happening? Welcome, everybody. Um, Oops, echo. Oh no, I'm in the multiverse. I gotta do the same. I gotta shut this one down too. There we go. No echoes, right? This is the YouTube one. This is the Rumble one. I'll take this one and put it over here. Yes. So yeah, where did we leave off? Doing more, basically, kind of history of GWAR. Like I said before, last week, I didn't know where to start. Middle, end, beginning. Finally, I did have a fair amount of things related to the beginning of GWAR handy, so it made sense to go ahead and do something like that. Holy shit, where's Sleazy? It's just dawn, says Magnusus. Just dawn. So disappointing. Anyhow, so I thought I'd just pick it up during the Hello era. And primarily what I was going to show and talk about was one of the earliest shows on one of the earliest tours. And yeah, it's called the Outhouse, and it was in Kansas. And it's kind of a somewhat famous or infamous punk rock mecca. One of the more well-known clubs in the punk rock scene in the U.S. Apparently, I think it's where or how Chris Stein and Debbie Harry got to know our guitarist at the time, Dewey Rowell. It wasn't at this show, but apparently they were at the Outhouse, and somehow, I don't know, Blondie came and checked out a show or something like that. I don't remember the exact story. But Dewey Rowell became friends with Chris Stein, and they came to see one of our shows up in New York. And yeah, that's it. That's one of the few brushes with rock royalty that you have along the way, We had, let's see, James Hetfield. Thanks for subscribing, Kyle Pruden. James Hetfield was at our Palladium show in L.A. That was a big deal, rock and roll royalty. Rock and roll royalty. Anyhow, I guess I could switch over to some pictures, and before I start running video, and just talk about what comes to mind when I look at the pictures. Right. But this is when we talk about Hello, we talk about the era after the alternatives left. So let's put it this way. Hello, we had a stand-in band. They were actually known as the Alternatives. It was a side gig for them. They were never serious about being GWAR. And so we had to find a more dedicated, a permanent band. And the way we did it, well, the way Dave did it, because I didn't have any input on who was a musician, was we started raiding other bands locally. He went and stole the Guilty's bass player. I wouldn't call it steal. You just ask the bass player they want to be in another band, and they say yes. Nobody stole anything. But on the other hand, and probably from the other band members' point of view, maybe they thought of it as stolen. But the Guilty had a bass player that Dave fancied who was pretty good. and they're from Hopewell. And then, as I said before, there was White Cross, was a local punk rock band. And in a way, the whole punk rock thing had peaked. You know, by '85, once Black Flag kind of hung it up, it felt like punk rock was transitioning into something else, and GWAR was part of that. You know, GWAR was transitioning out of punk rock, just like a lot of other punks were, you know, into something else. Let's call it post-punk, right? And a lot of them were influenced by metal. A lot of them started sounding metal. GWAR was more like punk trying to look metal, act metal, more than actually sound metal, you know. I think, as Greg Ottinger once said from the Alternatives, he said, we wanted our guitar sound to have that chunk, 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 chunk sound. And yeah, that's actually very difficult to get a good, consistent chunk, 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 chunk sound. So that's probably one of the reasons why GWAR didn't sound that metal. It still sounded punk and maybe hints of grunge that was about to come around later as well. Anyhow, let's see here. Here's a picture. Here's a picture. What do I got to do? So this is a bit later. I'm thinking this is not the earliest incarnation of that next band version, right? This is right in between. We're starting to transition to the Scumdogs era. This has Mike Dirks on guitar. He's ballsack now. He's taken over from Steve Douglas. I guess certain members felt like Steve Douglas didn't have the sound that they were looking for. And Mike Dirks was brought in. This, of course, is Rob Mosby. He was the White Cross member, the punk rock band White Cross member. He was the drummer. And this is Dewey Rowell. He was the White Cross's guitarist. And let's see here. What else we got? Wish I could tell what they were. What was that? Was just played before? It's on the same file. This is Lisa Harrelson. Here's where you can see it. So Dave hasn't transitioned to a full mask. Dave, first thing he wanted to do, I think he wanted to have this crazy brain. And he had this kind of half, I don't know what you would call it. It's not a mask because it doesn't cover the eyes. So it's a hat. It's supposed to be his brain or head. And it's only a little bit away from transitioning into the mask, the full mask. He's going to add a piece across his nose. And then the next time he's going to go all the way under his chin as well. I have a picture of that. This is a interim GWAR woman. This was Lisa Harrelson. And yeah, you know how she got in the band? Surprise! She was somebody's girlfriend. It's always somebody's girlfriend. It's always been somebody's girlfriend. Let's see what happened. Did I do something wrong? Just checking. That was an email. Anyhow. Sorry if I don't keep up with the chats enough. I will do my best. Let's see if I miss anything on Rumble. So this is Lisa Harrelson here. This costume was designed by Danielle Stamp. So Danielle Stamp's already starting to work with us. And she's going to become Sly Menster Hyman. But right now, This character's name is GWAR Woman, and she's played by Lisa Harrelson, and she's the girlfriend of Rob Mosby. And down here, this is the early incarnation of the Sexecutioner, played by Chuck Varga. That would be his permanent character from that time on, once he came up with that. And that's one of the earliest full masks. Interesting, because I always thought of Odorous as being the first full mask character, but no, I can see in this picture, actually, it's Odorous Urungus. But all of us are having our imprint on the design of these characters. So, for instance, I did the helmet and shoulder pads, and basically came up with sort of the skirt was pushing Beefcake the Mighty into being more or less having a Roman theme, you know. And Flatus Maximus's helmet here, that's done by Dave Muscle. On the other hand, I did the shoulder pads, and that was the beginning of, let's turn this character into a, you know, dinosaur killer. I mean, that wasn't my ideas exclusively, but that was the theme where I added the dinosaur shoulders, and there'd be variations of that. First, it started out kind of a basic, I would call iguanodon or something like that, you know, skull, and then they would turn into Stegosaurus, Strachiosaurus, whatever, Triceratops type skulls that later on. That would be guys like Mike Bonner sculpting those and things like that. Let's see. Yeah, so that pretty much says that's it. You can see though, Dave, man. Dave is going to want to keep going towards a mask, but interesting, just as a revelation, the first mask character was Sexecutioner, right here, Chuck Varga. So yeah, Chuck, hats off to you. I always attributed that move to Dave, but no, there you are. You beat him. You beat him fair and square. Let's see here. Let me check the chat. Pardon me, does SPM always stream on Friday too? Traditional Vibe, thanks for asking. This is new. I decided to discontinue Friday night for Sleazy, and do just GWAR. I'm streaming over on a Twitch because why not? It's one of the few platforms that I can take money through. I can get money through. So, and it will be unpublished the moment it's over. So, you know, I can get away with it, so to speak, even though Twitch likes to do exclusives. So, by the way, until I get YouTube monetized, the best way to contribute to me is through Twitch and or especially Rumble. So if you could contribute and help me keep making these shows, which I plan to do at least once a week, if not more, please contribute on Rumble. Thank you. I have Scumdog's tape in my collection. Yeah, well, that was the one that broke us. That was the one that broke us open, and as well as Joan Rivers and Beavis and Butthead. Those three things. I was just looking at 14 greatest GWAR albums ranked, and it was on Blabbermouth or something like that. And they had Scumdog's #1. It was interesting. I guess you can't deny it. Scumdog's always irritated us because it wasn't the sound of the production still wasn't where we thought it could be and should be. My favorite is still Violence Has Arrived. But they had good taste. They picked Violence Has Arrived as #2. So, you know, I had to say, once I looked through their whole list, actually, I was pretty much in agreement with it. Pretty much. Anywho, let's see. Look at some other pictures here. It'll come to me. I didn't have an agenda. I just had things that I can react to and just, go with the flow. So here's some here's some early props. And this is our early GWAR effects. Right now, we've got what is known as the redneck from hell. This was a piece that was on top of somebody's head, and the brain, the top of the head popped off, and exposed the brain. Here's his guts, right? Here's his redneck shirt, right? It's flannel, plaid, whatever. Here is another GWAR effect. I'm not exactly sure which one that was. This is called Bad Biker Bitch, which was really it was a caveman face that I sculpted a long time ago, and it was for decaps, and we just kept reusing the face. It just we were so lazy, and we thought it was funny anyways to make this woman look like a caveman, and so that's what that was. It's a Bad Biker Bitch, but she's just this same skinhead caveman dumb guy face that I sculpted that was to be used on decaps, I think it was, and other things like that. This is Chuck's character, Stubbles, a character named and kind of concepted by Dave Brocky, but Chuck went ahead and actually made the 3D version of him, and he was just kind of a do-it-all, prop. He had all kinds of different fun things you could do to him as you tore him apart. Rip him open, and the head came off, and the spine came out, and all this kind of fun stuff. Let's see here. So there's Dave. Now he's transitioned to the half mask, right? And he had this helmet. He loved the idea of this helmet. I forgot what he was inspired from. Elric book cover or something. I don't know what exactly. God, Dave loved Elric. Oh man, he loved some Elric. Always reading that on tour. He would read it aloud. Chuck and Dave would take turns reading to each other on the bus. But anyhow, this is the half mask that he came up with. Actually, this goes under a little bit. I think he might have had something that, I'm not sure if it was he must have always had a strap underneath to keep it on. But anyhow, and then there was this fiberglass thing, and this is where you learn the hard way. This thing broke instantly. It was made out of foam, carved foam with fiberglass over it, and naturally, it broke instantly. So, yeah, well, that's how, it's a good experience. My dad would always say, good experience, good experience. Fuck ups, they're the things you learn the best. So, now you've got Danielle. You've got Danielle as GWAR woman. And, that was always her. That was always her part. That was always her character. She played it better than anybody. And, it never got replaced. She was never replaced, and Dave Muscle was never replaced. It's like once the people go away, the characters are not as easy to replace as you think. And of course, they tried to replace the character to a degree with that Volvatron character, and that just didn't work out. And then they haven't tried to replace her since then, and it just goes to show you how difficult it is. You think that because the person came into the role almost by accident or haphazardly, that you could just do it again. But no, it doesn't work that way. Just because you found that bassist in a barn in Iowa doesn't mean you're going to be able to find a bassist that makes you sound the same in a ad in a newspaper later on when you have to. Steve D. Martin, mid-90s, I was in a band that had the concept of being bounty hunters from GWAR's planet. They came to Earth to bring them home to serve justice. No joke. Oh, man. I love shit like that. I always wish that GWAR would be, could be franchised out. I'd like to just see a lot of other people take it on and do their versions of it, you know. Just let the universe grow. That's what I wish would happen. Blue Raja, my friend, I truly appreciate the efforts and hard work that you and Justin do to keep the good times fresh and rolling. Truly an inspiration to life forever. Thank you. Thank you, Count Mills. Much appreciated. Anywho, just go back to the costumes, though. They really are a mishmash of different contributions. It's like shoulder pads and helmet for Beefcake me, Skirt me. This breastplate, though, that's Scott Krall. And he goes and finds a big piece of brass. And he does it the old-fashioned way. He hammers it out. Hammers it out in a mold or whatever. And yeah, it's hard to beat. Hard to beat that look. That was kind of a pun, wasn't it? No, it's hard to beat that look. And it kind of was out of place in a way because we never, ever used metal, generally speaking. We always used latex and fiberglass almost exclusively. Yeah, so anyhow, everybody's starting to go, we're going half mask. You can tell Flatus has got a wig. It's kind of got with a forehead. So he's got this brow, but the rest of his face is normal, right? And these pieces all just kept migrating, you know, so to speak, covering more and more face, it felt like, you know, just the way it went. The way things had a tendency to evolve. Here's Dave. He doesn't have the half mask, and but he's got this thing. This is the early stages of it. It was in much better condition at this point, and it hasn't been broken to pieces and refurbished. And this is the old cloth and glue days too. You can tell that. If it wasn't, we might have tried to save these things, because I told you before, cloth and glue would melt under the water or under moisture. It would start to dissolve because it's wood glue. And so it might have epoxied over these things, but we still found these things basically awkward, dangerous, and not as durable as latex. And so that's why for a while we just eventually converted everything to latex, because latex, you can count on it. It'll never break. It just won't, you know. This helmet being epoxy, foam, fiberglass, it kept having issues. You're constantly having bits and pieces of spikes break, fracture, crack off. By the way, I absolutely laugh. This is so hilarious. You know, we were always kept swapping out different parts of our costume. And this wig, this crazy red, curly, you know, looked like a 70s perm hairdo wig under Flatus is just hilarious. And he had this black and white kind of zebra striped fur bodysuit, and we were always merciless to each other. Whenever something wasn't working right, didn't look quite right, we would come up with an insult name for them. And it was our subtle way of getting people to, or not so subtle way of getting people to change. Like nobody, we didn't really have a person who had carte blanche editorial decision making about what was supposed to be on stage, or what people were supposed to look like, what their character was supposed to look like. You know, so basically a consensus would develop and this consensus was created by insults. So, I think this is one of the situations we started calling. We didn't. I think the feeling was the black and white zebra print. Looked just so Flintstone-y. Looked like the Flintstones to us. And so we started calling them Wilmas. We started calling Dewey Rowell Wilma, or put on here your Wilmas, as in Wilma Flintstone. And after that, even though we got rid of these, putting on any kind of fur loincloth was known as put on my Wilmas, your Wilmas. Was just inside GWAR slang for putting on your lower half, especially with fur. Rest in peace, Odorous. That's a good picture of Dave there. It's a funny picture. He looks sad. I wonder if he's sad. We saw this one already. Good. All right. I see anything else. I wish I had more Hello era production photos. I probably could have dug into my 50-year anniversary book and start pulling pictures out of there somehow, but I didn't. I found a few pictures online. Here's a Danielle. You can see this is Danielle's stamp. She's transitioning. Initially, her face was red. She had a red makeup face. Yeah. So, let's see. Oh, this is a Tumblr. There's a lot of photos from every era. I won't go into that because it doesn't really demonstrate the era that we're looking for. It doesn't show all that. It's just too all over the place. I found a bunch of photos of GWAR from 1988. Here's a great one. A look back, GWAR. There's Dave transitioning. There's Chuck Varga with the skull he helped make. This is a great photo, and the reason why it's so great, now you can see that stupid hairdo. You can see that 70s perm haircut on Flatta. See, he's got the Wilmas on. But anyhow, this is Chuck as a sexecutioner, and he at this time he was kind of dealing with alcohol. He had alcoholism issues by his own admission. Guy was always up front and would take responsibility for himself, and he just kind of lost it over the course of the show. He lost it. He was in this confrontational mood and just basically bashing the shit out of the audience. And he finally pulled off his mask. And at one point, we had to stop him. He had picked up a monitor, a fucking front edge monitor, and was getting ready to throw it at somebody in the crowd. That's how, I think there's a picture of it where he's holding it up. But that's how out of control he was. And he was honest. After the show, he admitted that he had lost control, and he vowed that he would never get like that again. And for the most part, he was right. He got his shit under control and never let himself get like that again. Not that later on other people weren't so in control. They kind of did let things get out of control. But Chuck, that was it, that show, and he came to me later on, and it was full admission that, yeah, I'm never gonna be like that again. And he never did. He never really got that out. He got violent, but it wasn't drunk violent. He was just violent because, he had his reasons. The devil you know. Throw in some money. Appreciate it. Thank you. He says, thanks, Don. And I say, thank you, devil you know. Much appreciated, really. I hope I haven't missed anybody. Let's see here. Nobody can contribute on YouTube. I'm going to have to monetize this channel so that it'll work better. But for right now, I got to build it up. Please spread the word. Spread the word and let people know now that there's a good GWAR, shall we say, documentation going on. That's going to be a regular thing on this channel on YouTube in particular, and others as well, you know, at least live. Like I said, the Twitch and the Rumble one will be gone. The moment this stream ends, they'll be gone. But I'd assume it'll be up on Kick and it'll be up on YouTube. One thing, apologize, too dumb to turn the live stream over into a regular viewable video. I don't know how people are finding it. It's like when I go through the regular YouTube you know, channel and I go to my channel, I'm not seeing these live videos turn up. It's been so long since I dealt with YouTube, I don't even know how things work anymore, frankly. Anyways, moving on. Once again, thank you, Devil You Know. Did I miss anybody else? Steve D. Martin, Blue Raja, gotcha. Steve Martin again. Good. Okay, caught up. On with the show. Yeah, there. This is Rockets, by the way, also known as Metro. Also known as the Metro. And yeah, those shows were crazy. One time, the same show when he was so drunk. This is a great story, or not. It was a decap, and we always do it the same way. You basically you're taking the head off and you're knocking it towards the back of the stage because we don't want to lose the head. You know, the head. Any prop that goes into the audience has a high likelihood of being taken home by someone else. You know, as a souvenir, and who wouldn't want it? Hey, look what I got, this cool GWAR head, you know, from a live show. And Chuck's already blitzed, and he wallops this thing, and it flies 20, 30 feet into the audience. He hits it towards the audience, over all these people's heads. And I made that decap, and I didn't know, you know, we were learning, and I gave it a plywood disc. I put a fucking, like a ½ inch or I'd say 5/8, ½ inch, something like that, plywood disc at the base of the head. And so that fucking head with the plywood disc on it flies into the audience and hits this guy and freaking gashes his forehead open. Like, I think he needed something like 10, 15 stitches, man, at the end of it. I didn't find out till a lot later. And as it turned out, the guy's dad was fucking, you know, ambulance chasing lawyer. He could have killed us. He could have ruined us right then and there. That'd have been the end of GWAR, man. Oh, I need this and punitive and all these other. I have scarring. I'll be emotionally disturbed having to look at this scar. He laughed it off. He told us he thought it was hilarious. It's like wore that scar and that story is like with pride, you know. For the most part, it seems like GWAR fans were like that. They just are so gladly willing to subject themselves to injury and punishment and just go along with it. And yeah, saved our ass, man. Saved our ass. We would have been ruined right then and there. Right then and there. But yeah, I wish we could see more with Steve Douglas in there. He didn't last long, as it turned out, you know. So one of the things about those early days, I guess I'll get to that story once I start watching a live show. By the way, here is an early video. Oh, City Gardens. This is a City Garden show. It's a whole show, too. So this is Lisa Harrelson doing the wrestling show. And yeah, that costume's designed by Danielle Stamp. And all it took was Lisa Harrelson. All it took was just one little kind of issue between her and Rob Mosby, and Danielle's in there. Ooh, I see an opening. I see an opening. I endorsed her, because I knew she was up for it and she would do a good job. And yeah, she did. So that was a good choice, But she was always, like I said, she was already working with us and was familiar with everybody and everything. And as she would say herself, a big part of how you fit in is you got to be a girl who is be one of the boys, and that's what she was. She was with all these guys. She had to be one of the boys and be in our world and be fine with it, and she was. Lisa was to a degree as well, but she only while Rob Mosby was her boyfriend, right? Danielle didn't need to be anybody's boyfriend to stay in the band, My favorite story is Sleazy shitting in the pizza box. Well, let's not wear that story out. I don't know why everybody loves that one so much. I feel like it needs a better ending, but what can I say? What can I say? It's just that's just tour bus life. You don't shit in the bog. Do not shit in the bog. You're not allowed to shit in the bog. YouTube live. So, where are we? Where is it in there? Here's the Hello album, okay? Well, ain't it bigger? There we go. Oh, shitting me. Yeah, shitting me. The fuck? There we go. Blow this up. I'm trying to get rid of this horse shit here. And I hit the X, and I thought it would take away the rest of that crap that's on the bottom and the top. But anyhow, I will pull up GWAR's Hello on another, because it's worth talking about. And this is a progenitor to all the problems that GWAR would consistently encounter during its existence, right? What the hell is that? I'll get rid of this. What? I had it. Can't blow it up, huh? You fucks. I just had it. There's lots of good pictures here during the Hello era. Why won't it highlight and give me the size, the file size? This is 220. Here's one. Is this bigger? 600, 615, 220. Sorry. It's worth looking at this in a bigger size. And it looks like I could spend forever trying to find a bigger version of it, and it'll just never be able to get it pulled up. So here's the blurry version. Title of the album, Dave Brockie. Something about Dave. Dave loved to put the word O at the end of everything. It was Nullo. He thought that was hilarious. Nullo was a brand of something you take, a medicine or to make your farts not stink. It's called Nullo. And he thought that was hysterical. And this O and that O, and he constantly was working O into everything. And Hell O was his idea of humor, right? There's, of course, Flatus and his stripy Wilmas on that album cover, and there's Beefcake the Mighty, and there's Steve Douglas as Ballsack, the Jaws of Death. And here is Nipleus Erecticus leaping through the air. So I think somebody took this toy tractor, toy bulldozer from the store and modified it to make it look like this. And this would be Odorus's personal, bulldozer, where he'd bulldoze all these dead bodies. And Dave delighted in finding World War II era concentration camp victims and working them into this Photoshop sort of, no, actually it wasn't a Photoshop at the time. I forgot. This was done the old-fashioned way. This was done with cutout and, layering. So there's, that's what it is, hand-drawn, and there's always a battle. I always felt like graphically that our album covers were a bit, well, we had a term for it. We called it pizza. It had a tendency to look like pizza. It's just something with a lot of shit on it, and there was no real rhyme or reason. It was just randomly placed. That's always felt like. The things were just randomly placed. The eye didn't have a tendency to, read things easily. Both, I hate to say it, both Hunter Jackson and Dave Brockie, when given a graphic design, when they're doing comics, they're great. The comics are just simple, powerful, cool for the most part. But when they're actually coming up with a composition that's complex and has a lot of elements in it, they have a tendency to be visually confusing, right? I'd say. And this album, a perfect example of that in my mind. Toilet Earth, same way. America Must Be Destroyed, the same way. Scumdogs of the Universe was a little better, and would have been even better. It was supposed to have a simple white background. It's supposed to be a white psych and the band standing against it. It's kind of bloody, but it's still a white psych with the simple blood letters that I designed for Scumdogs of the Universe. And fucking Master Records stepped in and changed it. Once they got the fucking the art all sent in, we get it back, and we get this thing, and it's like, where does this fucking Antarctic background come from? We didn't. That's not the way what we were going for at all. And just a white background. It seems so. I remember the word daft. It's like, no, what you put in was daft. This fucking stupid Antarctic, this ice patch that you threw in behind us all. Well, anyways, that's off subject. There was a lot of contributions were added, and it all sort of sucked. It always seems like, our album covers were, well, as Mike Delaney loved to say, too many Indians, not enough Chiefs. Too many Indians, not enough Chiefs. And that was typical, of everything. I remember doing the lettering, and it consisted of this rub-on, this rub-on. That's the way we had to do it. It'd take, Gothic style lettering from the art store. You buy it, and lay it on there and rub out each letter at a time. This is the Antarctic fortress and landscape, and this is probably one of the better things that's on this album, because Hunter, actually sculpted this in the physicality, and later on, I believe we'd use this or something very similar to it for the Skullhead Face album, or Skullhead Face video movie, right? That's the cover of it. It's got this, and it's got Skullhead Face looming over it. But yeah, that was the background. That's the back album, and it was put out by Shimmy Disc. So Shimmy Disc was our first. That was our first label, and I mean, God, it was just. It was. I remember going and recording at the studio, and it was just basically, it was an apartment. This guy had converted his apartment into a studio, man. And I'm not sure if it was 8-track. I think he had 8-track. Like, we would hoping for 16-track, and he had 8. I could be wrong. Maybe it was 16. But it was this guy, Kramer, Mark Kramer, I believe it was his name. Did I have? I had looked him up. About to go again. Mark Kramer and GWAR. So here he is. This guy, something of an eccentric, Mark Kramer, and his choice, his taste in bands was kooky, artsy, and deliberately, I would say, lo-fi. He had a kind of that aesthetic. It was a sort of a lo-fi aesthetic, if you would call it now. And of course, that made people like Mike Bishop, Mike Bishop especially wanted to be taken seriously as a musician. And I think, the dream was to be on somebody like, if we're going to be on an indie or smaller label, it'd be something like Roadrunner, with Celtic Frost. And so that's where, someone like Mike Bishop wanted to be. But, gotta take what you can get. And Mark Kramer showed interest and was willing to record us and to release the album. And in case you happen to, if maybe you don't remember him, his band was Bongwater. You remember Ann Magnuson? I remember we met Ann Magnuson through him, and she was a cutie. She was definitely, kind of like at the time out of his league, both artistically. I mean, they weren't an item, they weren't a romantic item, but I think artistically almost she was out of his league. But she liked his kooky indie aesthetic, and those old Bongwater, or excuse me, not only Bongwater, but other bands that are on the Shimmy Disc label, they're pretty cool. I remember listening to them. The Power of Pussy. Look at that. The Power of Pussy. Bongwater. It's like something a Sly Minster would have said. But yeah, I liked the bands that he had on his label. Here's the Shimmy Disc compilation. And here's Mark Kramer right here. I'm going to guess this is Bongwater right here. let's go back a little bit. Maybe it might have it at the beginning. Well, this gives you an idea how utterly, where his taste was as far as music. And, like I was saying before, is this too loud? Can it be heard? It can't be heard, can it? I'm sorry. But it shows you what he saw in GWAR was completely different than what Mike Bishop and Mike Dirks wanted to see in GWAR. They wanted us, they had visions of being the next Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Celtic Frost, whatever, fill in, awesome musician metal bands. And, Mark Kramer didn't see us that way at all. He heard a very crude and very funny and, shall we say, whimsical, version of metal. Sort of like a very aggressive performance rock band, provocative performance rock band, but he was not coming at it or thinking of it as some underground metal band that he was going to polish and bring into the world. Hey, here's the next Metallica, Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. And that of course is always what made GWAR weird in the way it was, because nobody really saw GWAR. Nobody saw GWAR for the way. Everybody saw GWAR differently. They all had their own interpretations, kind of it. I wanted the special effects to be as realistic. I had a EC Comics, splatter flick sort of movie effects look to things, and I was strived for realism. And then other people like Chuck Varga or Mike Bonner saw a very cartoony, almost like H.R. Pufnstuf puppet sort of, very unreal looking, effects and props and things like that. Dave was somewhere in the middle, and Hunter saw it kind of manga-ish, and so it was always just a combination of all of the above, all of those things. It's a little bit tokusatsu, it's a little bit superhero, it's a little bit H.R. Pufnstuf, it's a little bit of all these things, Goddamn, wish I could remember 88. What's this? Discography? Blind Eye? Are you sending me something that has to do with... GWAR Hello. Wow. Weird. Wonder where that came from. The stand-in album cover. Bong milk. Is there a bong milk? Haha. You put water in your bongs? How about bong milk? I can believe that exists. It's much more refreshing to smoke through special bong milk. Smooths, cools the bong smoke better than any ordinary water. Yeah, I can see that. I totally see that. What is it? It's milk of magnesia. Don't tell them that, though. We got them paying $20 a cup. All right. So, anyways, moving on. I'm kind of my My stuff is spreading out too much. Look. There's Danielle. It shows you what a badass she is. Richard Gastman. This is his book. The GWAR book. Yeah, there's Danielle. She's doing some fiberglassing. So she's right with us. Right with us, even back in these days. So I had a, what was it? I think it was a shimmy disc. This is the video of us. This is our first video that Shimmy Disc put out. Not this. Gotta go down. Another one of some artsy fartsy band. There we go. Comes up right after this. But oh man, you know, the guy definitely had an ear for noise bands, and you know, I think it probably dawned on the musicians, you know, that you know, Kramer did not see us as a real metal band or anything like that. Great punk band, a great metal band. To him, it was, he just loved the joke. He loved the humor of it. So, this was the first video, I guess, a first music video that we ever did. Dedicated, you know, to making a music video. I think we shot this. We shot this near the dairy. In this little studio that the band would practice at, and it was while we were transitioning out of the dairy, and it was on the corner of two streets that converge, Fushi and I don't know what, Broad or something real close to that, but it was right like a block away from the dairy. And we shot it in there, invited a bunch of friends. Hey, come on, be in the cool, you know, music video. And there's me, playing Techno Destructo. So Hunter had left at this point. He had went back to Detroit. And so, honestly, I liked being sleazy, but I had a hankering to get on stage and sing and get into the action. So I had a chance to be Techno Destructo. For some reason, we wanted to keep that character going. And this would create a lot of strife between us later when he came back. But I definitely wanted to get on stage, so I jumped at the chance to be double up as Techno Destructo when I wasn't sleazy. And so I'm in this video, and I learned to hate the costume. There's a lot about that costume I hated in being that character. One of the things was basically, you know, Hunter just had basically kind of a G-string Wilma, pair of Wilmas or whatever, just kind of a G-string thing that he wore, a loincloth. And man, I hated that because I did not have the ass and legs to be seen with no pants on, you know. So, you know, once we decided to, you know, once we decided that the way to solve the problem was to have another Techno Destructo, I started changing. I had already started changing the costume, actually, before he got back in, you know. But it's a funny story because we you know, first I didn't want to give the character up, and he was really mad about that. And then finally Dave came up with this idea, hey, why don't you play Techno Destructo and you play Techno Destructo, and you guys are getting into fights with each other, arguing who's the real Techno Destructo. That's Dave's way. He loved it. He loved the absurdism. No, I'm Techno Destructo. No, I'm Techno Destructo. You know. Well, let's fight over it. You know. And he was just taking what was happening behind the scenes and just made it, you know, part of the show. And, you know, thinking back on it, it was a brilliant solution. And of course, what we ended up doing was, after a little bit of that, I just turned the character into its own. I turned into Bozo Destructo, which is what I should have done in the first place. Like, it was so right in front of us. I don't know why, you know, we let it get taken to this point where, you know, it creates so much strife between us. You know, I like, hey, I could just be something else, you know, and you know, I don't know why I had to be Techno Destructo. The character didn't really fit me. You know, being this space barbarian, which should look more like G.G. Allen than it should look like some, you know, clean college kid face, you know, that I had, didn't work, you know. If anybody needed a mask in that situation, it was me, as I finally came up with Bozo Destructo later on. And, yeah, you know, that was an unnecessary point of contention between the two of us once Hunter came back. But I was bound and determined to stay on stage in a singing fighting role. And, you know, it was stupid. Both people could have been happy. It would have been no big deal. You know, considering the way things get fixed in GWAR, which is, oh, well, if something doesn't work, we just incorporate that aspect into the live show, you know. It's just the way we always usually were. And we could have solved that issue early on that way. And you know, it added extra tension between me and Hunter that it wasn't necessary there to be there early on. Yeah. App 911. Before I pass out, great show. Here's some cash money. So thanks, App. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. I'm sorry I'm causing you to pass out. I really am. Anybody else? Anybody else? Feel free. Feel free. So, yeah, I think that kind of lays the groundwork, because that shows that first version of the band that you just saw in that video, shows the first version of the band that's going to go out on tour. And we can't do it unless, I wish I had the picture of it. Maybe I could get it. I bet you it'd show up in a Google search. I'm sure it would. This is a story worth telling. So we can't do it without a tour bus, you know. And I want this thing blow up bigger. Fuck. I just double click it. Well, now won't open there. I gotta fucking go through all these pictures. You can see it in this picture here. I'm gonna go get another picture, but that's the best one right there. Yeah, that's the best one. So anyways, we're trying to figure out, okay, let's get this thing on tour. And Dave Muscle, you know, one of the most valuable player, shall we call him, MVP at this point in time in GWAR. He's the only one who's got a decent job. He's the only one who's got some savings. He's the only one who has the brains and wherewithal to figure something out like this and make it happen. And so he goes to a used, I guess you would say, SUV or car lot, and he gets an International Harvester school bus. Actually, we went through two of them, and I think this might have been the second one. But anyways, we get an International Harvester school bus, and he completely guts it and re-welds and puts in a storage area and sleeping berths and things like that for us to tour, to go on a cross-country tour. And that's what makes it possible. One of the things that also makes it possible is we play a live show with the play a live show with the Mentors. And the Mentors, you know, El Duce and the rest of them, they just were so thrilled with us. They loved us, and they took the word back. Like you know, it was almost as if it was like John the Baptist goes to the West Coast to spread the word, you know, that Jesus is coming. You know, exalted ones, yes, Jesus is coming. The Messiah is almost here, you know, sort of thing. Them and Gibby from the Butthole Surfers got the word out to Texas, and the Mentors got the word to California, and maybe a few other people got, you know, Maximum Rock and Roll got it to a few other places, but the word started to spread. And so we do our first tours. First we started out doing just short weekenders, right? But then we finally put together a national tour, so to speak. Just basically Dave calling up people out of the back, contacts out of the back of Maximum Rock and Roll magazine, right? He just uses that and calls people up and puts together, you know, a tour, national tour. And yeah, we got to fucking rumble across the country in this thing. You know, it's got a governor on the engine, you know, so it can't do more than 56 miles an hour. It's like, it's so irritating to be behind that thing, you know. Even when you got it floored, it's governors that's got it set at 56 miles an hour. So you're just like barely able to do the speed limit. And fuck going on a, you know, up the mountains. That sucked. In fact, we ended up destroying a drive shaft, the drive shaft in one of those, the second bus, and had us holed up in some weird town in Washington, state of Washington, for nearly a week. That's another story altogether. But yeah, we do this first tour in this school bus, and the club, there's this one, this is memorable. This was a club this is one that Dewey Rowell kind of had his pre-contest. That's the other thing. A lot of this tour is put together by Dewey Rowell context, because he had toured America with White Cross. So White Cross had done a tour. That's Danny Black, early roadie. I don't know who that is. Somebody from another band. Probably talking to Dewey Rowell or Danny Black about something. There is, of course, Beefcake fiddling around on his bass. I don't know who this guy is. He's probably a friend of the cameraman. But this is a really interesting documentation of the behind the scenes of one of the typical shows. And this show was really memorable because we had heard this place was legendary. And when we got there and actually did the show, that looks like my tit. I don't know why. Could be wrong. I probably have a shirt off. I don't know why. That looks like one of my tits. My skin, my tits. Anyhow, so we'd heard about this place. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's in Kansas. It's out in the farmlands, out in corn, basically, you know, corn-growing farmlands. And these kids know how to party. This is a big deal, and that's what makes it so special, and always will have made it such a special experience. So, you know, we pull in about noon, and man, it didn't take but an hour, less than that, before everybody else who was going to the show was already there. And it was the beginnings of, basically, it was an all-day party. It was an all-day party, and the whole punk rock scene of Kansas. There's the cockroach after it's been painted. But it's an all-day punk rock scene, you know, that you know, these kids, they know how to have a good time. Basically, they have a great time. Very memorable. There's all the props. This is typical. We would, you know, everything is filthy and bloody and stinking. Partially because one of the things that was common was we used noodle paste and stuff like that for brains and guts. And it would get on stuff, and then it would start to fester shortly afterwards. I only had to spend a certain amount of time, you know. And so we'd have to pull it out and wipe it off, rinse it off if possible, hose it off if possible, and let it, you know, dry in the sun. We would sun dry it, basically. Here's somebody's Volkswagen, and I guess they thought it would be cool to have GWAR members contribute. I guess that's me standing on top of the thing. I could be wrong. That looks like me. I don't know. Or on the side there? I'm not sure. I'm one of those pasty, skinny guys. I'm not sure. But yeah, everybody's doing their little contribution to this thing. And you know how, you know what happens when everybody starts painting a car? It ends up looking like shit. It doesn't turn into John Lennon's amazing psychedelic Rolls Royce. It just turns into a fucking wall of shit.
They were selling it at Houston.
Yeah, these were great shirts too. Better than anything we came up with.
We walked in there and he said, "Here, have a free one." Nice, isn't it? I wish ours was as nice. I wish we had these t-shirts at all.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have any with you? No, we sold them all.
By the way, I started out making the t-shirts early on. So I used those blood letters and took a photograph of one of our friends, a ball sack, and put the two images together. And I would print them on the road, and then, oh look, a penis. I would print them on the road, and then we would literally bake them in people's ovens. We'd bake them in people's ovens at different locations, you know, and have them still stinking of paint. Yeah, that's me. Having them stinking of paint, you know, as we sold them to the customers, you know, if we could get them ready in time for the show. It was like DYI or whatever. I can't never say that. DYU, DYI, do it yourself. DYI, I don't know. Do it yourself. DIY, that's it. Here is your typical collection of Kansas Outhouse punk rock fans. Hey, looks like he could be my brother, frankly.
Who? GWAR? Yes. GWAR? GWAR. GWAR anyway.
GWAR is...
I'm doing. Yeah, I hate to
the best girl ever seen.
you doing here. Oh, funny. That's no, I don't kidding.
Smoking some dope. You ready for GWAR?
Hey, that's a good idea.
Getting ready now. I will be. That bald head in there. No stems, no seeds that you don't need.
Badass weed.
Oh, are you ready for GWAR?
These kids were great. They were psyched. They're into it. That's what makes all the difference in the world. Because, you know, a GWAR show is an audience participation event. You know, they're as big a part of it in a way as the band itself. And you're supposed to really just throw yourself into it, and just a mindless frenzy is what is you need to bring to the show. You know, it's supposed to be carnage. And these kids brought it. They definitely brought it. I mean, you'd expect it. They were blasting off by 2 in the afternoon. The show didn't go on till after 6. So they were well on their way, so to speak. Right?
How much would you normally pay to see a show like this?
I thought it was free.
Free.
I thought I was being ripped off. $5.
$5. Man, times have changed. $5.
Let's hear it from Fort Riley. Let's hear it from Fort Riley. Fort Riley, Army. We're from the Army.
Yeah, I can tell.
That was typical. We do other shows out in that area. We had a bunch of guys from the Army unit base. I think it was the Big Red one. They had their base was in the Midwest. They brought MREs to us. Had us eat their MREs for fun. What is this again? This is a live show in 1988. It's called the Outhouse. It's called the Outhouse. It's in Kansas. And it's one of the great legendary punk rock venues in the country. Just because of the way it was, where it was located, and the support, the scene. The scene was just great. And the scene is kind of, I mean, it's counterintuitive, I guess, because people think, oh, the scene in Chicago, or the scene in San Francisco, the scene in D.C., the scene in New York. You know what? This was better. And the reason why it's better is because the kids were more devoted. They were more devoted. They were more, just as hardcore, just as committed, just all into it, That's what it's all about, really. That's how you make a scene happen. Just participation, really. Was that Sly Menstra? I think that's Danielle there. I'm not sure.
I'm wanted in 358 countries. I'm John F. Kennedy's brother.
John F. Kennedy's brother. Talk about the 80s, huh? Who's having a flashback? Mid to late 80s. The punk rock uniform had kind of fallen off, It seems kind of cliche to try to be the, 70s era punker, Nobody had mohawks, really, or anything like that. So, anything goes at this point. Same way it was with the post-punk scene.
Doesn't that just add a touch to it? Oh, this guy. Don't let any psychiatrist get a hold of his phone, don't they?
Looks like the show's about to start. We're indoors now. So the club was really small. The club was kind of like like a concrete cinder block utility shed, practically. This is something that Hunter loved to do and was always doing. Always selling. ABC. Hunter was always closing. So yeah, he'd often be going around the parking lot. Hey, come get your cool GWAR t-shirts. You cool GWAR this, you cool. He always had to have the word cool. And that was one of Hunter's little nuances, his little things that always made us laugh and we always used to imitate. He would try to entice somebody who came over to visit, you know, or somebody who was like somebody's friend, and everything was cool, especially when he was trying to get a hold of it. So he would go like, "Hey man, why don't you smoke some of your cool pot with?" Like putting the word "cool" in front of it was like somehow buttering you up to make you give it to him. It was delightfully transparent. It made us laugh every time we'd hear him say that, trying to butter somebody up, trying to manipulate them into giving him things. You know, "Hey man, while you're here, can I have one of those cool beers of yours?" Your beer is cool. Your weed is cool. He never called you cool, generally speaking. He never said you're so cool. I never heard him say that. He'd always say, you know, what you had was cool. He's a GWAR fan. Yeah, it looks like some of these people might have already seen a show. And that's what I always loved. I always loved handmaids. I always loved handmade GWAR shirts. To me, that's always the real GWAR fans never come with a purchased GWAR shirt. You buy one and get it stained on purpose. But the shirt you wore, you know, handmade, especially with, you know, drawn with Sharpies and stuff like that. Come up with stuff like that. That to me has always been a sign of the real GWAR fan. Will this be on YouTube? Says Agent Chet. Yeah, I don't know why it is on YouTube now. Should be. I don't know why when I live stream it, I got to figure out how to put it on the regular list of videos on YouTube. I don't know why I'm not. It's been a while since I've been on YouTube. I was kicked off more than a year ago, and I really hadn't done anything in that long on it. So when I streamed the last one, the live from the dairy, or the dairy one about the dairy days, it's in the live collection, but it's not in the regular just videos collection. So I apologize for that, and I will try to correct that so that you guys can go through these and brush up on your, you know, GWAR history, you know, as you go along. But to refresh for those who've showed up late, say again, at this point, GWAR has replaced Steve Douglas with Mike Dirks, I'm pretty sure. But Dewey Rowell's in the band. He's one of White Cross. And Rob Mosby is in the band as Niplius Erecticus, the drummer. And Daniel Stamp has replaced Lisa Harrelson as GWAR woman. Now she's called Slyminster Hyman. I guess probably had the name as soon as she went on stage. She probably had it named. Yeah. So this is 88, and this is part of shows that we were either doing on the way to California or on the way back. I think it was probably on the way there. You know, I'm assuming it was on the way there because, you know, to get there, you need income, and so you got to get some touring income, you know, to make it where you need to go. You can't just drive all the way to California.
Fucking believe it. Some of you survived the last show. You fucking people don't learn your lessons. Alright, if I might now, a philosophical question, if you will. Indulge. Would it be overstepping, say, my freedom of speech if I yelled, fire?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I'm trying to know what I'm going to say. I haven't seen this in so long. I love how they basically practically knocked me off the stage.
Throw any of that peanut butter shit on me, I'll ventilate you. You hear me? Alright,
So,
now.
watch when the band finally comes on stage. I think this one, is this it? Or it's Wust Hall. Wust Hall, they just knocked me off the stage. It's hilarious.
Frozen in the Antarctic waste. Ladies and gentlemen, these are not ordinary people.
But, so now I've given up on, there was a while where I just used my real hair. Then I switched over to using, like, woman's wigs kind of tied together in this ratty thing that was on my head trying to make a pompadour. And then I came up with the carved foam, and I took what was, it was laundry line. I took laundry line and glued it on the surface of the carved foam to give that, you know, those lines in the hair, you know, that it has to this day. But once again, these design choices come as a result of practicality. This was much better. All I had to do is take this thing and shove it on my head. And I didn't have to worry about blood and liquid ruining it, and getting it all matted, and having to clean it, and try to figure out how I could keep its shape and stuff like that. It was polyfoam, and yeah, this carved seat cushion is what it was. Probably carved with electric knife, you know. Electric knife, I carved it and then smoothed it and then spray painted it black, and I put the laundry lines on it, glued the laundry lines on it, and then spray painted it black, and voila, you know, that was the first like kind of like dedicated real sleazy wig. But you could see the suit; it was pale blue, and I just got that from a thrift store. But once again, why did Sleazy end up with vinyl? Because you didn't have to wash vinyl. You could go, you get splashed with blood, and just a simple wipe down, and your costume looked great. Unlike polyester, once that fucker's stained, yeah, you can wash it, but then it's lost all its shape. The suit looks all just limp and raggedy on you, right? The crispness is gone. Even though it's polyester, it will wrinkle, you know, it will look dumpy, and it just wasn't practical. Also, a lot of times we are in situations where we don't have time for the costumes to dry out. That's really, really common, and that would come to suck, especially when you were doing a winter show, a cold weather show. So the costume would get soaked. You do a show indoors or something like that in a place like this, and the next thing you know, you're playing an outdoor show at a skate park or something, and you know, it's under 50 degrees and the wind is whipping, and you know, that sucked. So yeah, that was part of that move towards rubber. Because rubber, all you had to do is wipe it down, and you could clean it up. It was cleaned up very easily. It was durable. The cleanup and the durability factor and the safety factor. Because we were in tight confines. You're always bumping into each other. You don't want to take a fiberglass spike in the eye, you know? And that's likely to happen on these kinds of shows, man. You can see how chaotic it is here. How tight and confined this space is. Low ceiling, you know, all these fans. We have no security, so anybody can get up on stage and, you know, fuck with us if they want. We're counting on them to not do that. And of course, we also enforce our own security. You know, that's what the slaves would do. I remember the luxuries, the little signposts along the way told me that we were becoming a big band. One of them was we converted from a school bus to a real bus, a tour bus. The other one was, you know, the band had actual stage front barriers, you know, to keep people from getting on stage. Didn't mind people being on stage. I didn't mind people getting on stage, but they would steal props. So, let's see here. Gotta deal with something. Just looking through the comments, make sure I'm caught up. Anybody else? Give me money, bitches. So, like, yeah, we finally had stage front barriers with actual hired, you know, muscle or stage security, whatever you want to call it. You know, that was luxury, man. It was nice not to have to sit there and get into these physical confrontations with fans, you know, because, you know, there would be some punch-ups. There were definitely some punch-ups that happened in the early days. One of the first shows where I was in, I played redneck. I played the redneck, this guy grabbed the axe and he pulled me into the audience with him. And he thought, you know, he had that look in his eye. You can always see this. For some reason, when people see you dressed as a cartoon character, they think they are allowed to do anything they want to you or with you. Like it's all a big joke. And yeah, it's a joke to a point. But, you know, we can't afford to lose a single prop. And when GWAR slaves were in danger of losing a prop, every goddamn one of them would jump to, you know, basically risk their life to get the prop back. It was like, as Hunter would put it, it's the mama bear protecting their cubs. Just too much riding on every single prop. We had no duplicates. We had no duplicates for anything, generally speaking. And at this point in time, you're not going to be able to get stuff made, a duplicate made, into you on time. And of course, this lesson was learned when I had a brand new Stage 2 second version of Bozo Destructo stolen because we had some stupid idiot talked us into having a wedding. And that the entourage filed backstage and somebody kiped it. Somebody figured out a way to nab it. Boy, was I livid. I had just made that thing. I had just made it. It was painted beautifully. It was you know, it's the one I use to this day to play that character, but it was brand new. I hadn't done but a handful of shows in it. And to have that stolen, livid. And, you know, there were other things that were stolen at times as well. But if there were times I remember famous like Scott Crawl just running and launching himself off the stage into the crowd because somebody way in the back, you know, had a hold of one of the weapons, had gotten a hold of it and was trying to make off with it. You know? It was a perfect example. Every one of those guys were just killer commandos so when it was about a prop getting stolen or lost. It's not like they were big tough guys either, you know, just regular ordinary guys. But man, go nuts trying to get something like that back. Blowing my wad all over God. This is some raw GWAR, I tell you, man. I remember at the time, though, that a lot of this transition to metal from punk was very appealing. That was one of the things about, you know, what GWAR was feeding into, was after the punk scene kind of, as we saw it, like hardcore, after it disintegrated, started disintegrating in '85, I always think of Black Flag calling it quits as that moment, right? Once that ended, did it end in '85 or '86? I could be wrong, it might be '86, summer of '85, I thought. And, you know, it was like all punk rockdom kind of came to the same sort of conclusion, either immediately or gradually. It's like, hey, you know what? Metal is cool. You know, metal is cool. Metallica is cool. You know, Slayer is cool. You know, and of course there are a lot of that crossover sound, like the Cro-Mags, DRI, Agnostic Front, you know, bands like that. Yeah. Like I said, GWAR never got that super precise chunk sound that metal was known for. Began to sound that way at the time, right? Close your eyes. It's very much punk rock. It's very much punk rock. It's going to take a long time for the metal influence to really start working its way into the band, and it's going to be a long time before they achieve the sound. You know, they're going to begin to be able to achieve a real metal sound. You know. Who at Paisley? It's like daisies. Americanized. Yo, SA. SA. Drugs and cons. Someone. I think I'm going to move it along. These songs are sounding alike. There's a slave injecting people with drugs. That's a gag. Haha. We got some sort of skit coming up. Probably Sexecutioner song. I think it's a Sexecutioner song. Big Raja, Big J Arilla is now a monthly supporter. Awesome. Thank you. Much appreciated. That's Rumble. This is YouTube. I will monetize YouTube soon. Is this and this over here, is this Twitch? I wore a cow costume to a GWAR show at the Masquerade in Atlanta way back when. Good times. Some memorable moments from those shows. I can tell you a great story. I told this story before. I'll tell it again because it's fucking one of my all-time favorites. So, we're playing the Masquerade, and they had this retarded, like, it was dangerous, cable raised and lowered loading system for getting equipment up in the next next floor. And not a normal fucking freight elevator, no. It's an idiotic cable raised, I don't know, you call it a basket, whatever. Dangerous. Anywho, so it made loadout take a really long time. It was like a lot of people. It was like a VDOT operation. It's a lot of guys standing around watching somebody else do the work because it's so it takes so long to get all the equipment, you know, out of this place. So anyhow, you know, GWAR members at different times showed different amounts of loadout. We had to do it ourselves. We didn't have a roadie. You know, we didn't have roadies at that point in time. We couldn't afford them. There was too many people in the band already. Because our roadies were really, in a lot of ways, the artists who were doing the stage show. And so anyhow, Dave and Dewey Rowell have decided they're kind of avoiding loadout. They're doing the old hang out by the bar and try to schmooze on chicks. Like, yeah, hey, I was in that band that just played. What'd you think of us? You like us? Yeah. And both Dewey and Dave had sunk their teeth into the same girl. They were both cock blocking each other and both hitting on this chick trying to get into her pants. And so they're at the bar and they're like plying her with drinks like crazy, trying to get her drunk. They're drinking like crazy to get themselves, you know, while they're trying to get her drunk. And let's see. What happens is the girl just leaves and neither of them get to hook up with her. They both go down in flames, right? And so they come back to the loadout sort of in a belated effort to help after almost most of it was done, right? And by this point, Dewey Rowell is really starting to feel the alcohol. He's really, really wasted. And there's one of those ice buckets, beer, you know, you have the ice in it. It has the rope on the sides, a tub, and, you know, usually use it to fill with ice, and then you have beers in there. And so anyways, Dewey's really wasted now, and he's kind of sitting down, and then he started to get really sick. And he like uses the tub, he starts vomiting in the tub. He's like barely hanging on the edge of the tub. And he's like belching and vomiting into the tub. And Dave's pissed at him because he had cock blocked him, you know, with hooking up with this chick, right? I guess Dewey was probably a little irritated with Dave as well. But Dewey didn't handle his alcohol as well as Dave did, I guess, or did he drank more or whatever. Anyhow, Dewey's wasted. He's vomiting into this tub. And Dave is laughing at him and insulting him. And then Dave goes, I think I'll take a piss right now. And so Dewey's so drunk, his face is down, you know, barely holding on to this tub. And Dave is pissing into the tub, into the vomit. And he's making it splatter up on Dewey's face. Like Dewey's like, fuck you, you know, and the little bits of vomit are like flecking up on his face, and Dave's cackling away, laughing at him as he, you know, continues to urinate in this tub. And Dewey's going, I'll get you back, you fucker, fuck you. So, you know, we end up finish packing up, and the show is over, and Dewey passes out early, right? We had a tendency to stay up till, like, you know, once the show was over, we'd still be awake, kind of talking and drinking and smoking on the bus wherever we were going, you know, till past 2, 3, 4 a.m. sometimes. But he's out early because obviously he's so drunk. Well, I guess that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know, depending on which way you want to look at it. Because Dewey wakes up early the next day. We're on the road, and Dewey has woken up early. We're earlier than everybody else. And I see him, and he's creeping around from across some of the bunks. And he creeps over into Dave's bunk. And I see his pelvic area basically sort of, Dave's head was obscured. And Dewey's butt was in the way. So I'm not exactly sure what was going on. And Dewey comes out of the bunk. He comes out of the bunk and I go, "What are you doing?" And he goes, he smiles at me. I dick licked him. I gave him the dipstick, lipstick treatment while he was asleep. That was his comeback. It could have been worse, right? Could have been worse. Maybe it was worse. I wonder what was on his dick. Anyhow, Dave slept through it, so he was lucky. And that's my masquerade show story, which you triggered with that word, masquerade. Dewey's revenge. It was revenge. Most foul. So Sexecutioner is a character, like I said, we had Executioner and then we had a Sexecutioner, and they evolved out of necessity. Before we thought to have a slave, we needed extra characters to administer violence or do something, to the victims that we had on stage. Because sometimes Dave was busy. He couldn't get to the action. We just needed extra hand, basically. So, Sexecutioner was one of those characters that evolved from that. He was the Executioner, and he wore what looked like a Grecian, hoplite helmet. And then Chuck took him over and made him his own. He changed it to the Sexecutioner and made him into this sort of, best way to put it, it's kind of a Marquis de Sade inspired executioner of the, eunuch executioner type. Sorry, I don't know. Taking it's kind of cues from some eunuch in Knights of Aladdin or whatever. I don't know. Something like that. You mean Potts Pasture out by Potwin, El Dorado? AE? Are you guys talking about something else? I almost got arrested my first GWAR show, 97 Skate World. Why you guys come 1 block away from the county jail? Yeah. I remember that show. When I was referring to one of those shows that was cold, that was it. I'm pretty sure. 97 Skate World. We played on top of a skate ramp or something like that. It was hilarious because the best part of the show was Scott Crawls, a slave, died, and he, covered in blood, he just slid down the ramp, unconscious, pretending to be unconscious. It looked so cool, man. It looked so cool. Saw Typo and Cold Chamber there, too. Good show. I just remember Skate World had the best barbecue I've ever had in my life. They had barbecued ribs. They catered us with them. And they gave us all we could eat, and I swear to God, I could not stop eating them. They gave me all I could eat, and I ate all they could give me. I was just remember enjoying those ribs so much. Of course, most of the time, food is horrible. Right? Caterings consist of Somebody brings there's a package of white bread, cold cuts, mayo, maybe some mustard. And one of those, maybe if you're lucky, one of those little hors d'oeuvre trays that have the little vegetables in it. Here are some carrots, broccoli, some, ranch dressing in the middle of it all. Stuff like that. It's real typical. In fact, I'd have to say, touring made me hate cold cuts. Touring didn't make me hate pizza. It shows you how universally great pizza is. I never got tired of pizza. Even shitty, cheap pizza. I just never got tired of pizza. So, pizza the perfect food. Pizza, eat it for breakfast, eat it for lunch, eat it for dinner. Eat it hot, eat it cold. You don't even have to refrigerate it. You can leave pizza in the box for a day and a half, maybe 2, and come back to it. Dried up and all. Pizza jerky. Nice and chewy and hard, but still edible. Won't get you sick. It's not growing fungus. Yeah. Ate a lot of goddamn pizza on tour, but boy, I learned to hate cold cuts sandwiches so much because of touring. You just wanted the pizza so you could have the box afterwards to start faster. I knew a comment was coming like that. I assumed it would happen. It's like, uh-oh, I'm talking about pizza. What memories is this going to trigger? It's an energetic show. And I've heard shows that sounded worse. But when you record with basically the little speakers that are in a fucking camera, that's typical. I'll always remember one of our earliest shows we did, I think, at the Ritz or something like that in New York. That was one of the first ones where we felt like we were blowing up because we were playing a large place. And I went to the bathroom, and one of the things I always liked about being in GWAR was people didn't recognize you. So you could be a fly on the wall and hear impartial and honest, commentary about the band from people. Because they'd say the truth because they didn't know you were in the band. I wasn't going around asking them, so what'd you think of the show? No, I didn't do that. But every once in a while, you'd just be hanging out and you overhear people talking about a show. So I'm in line. This guy Jolly or whatever used to sell bootleg versions of GWAR buttons. I don't know why, but he was a friend of ours, and so we would frequently go and hang out with him, talk to him, before or during the show, sometimes, or after the show, whatever. Before or after the show, not during. I'd be on stage. And so anyways, there's a bunch of kids milling about in front of his kiosk or whatever, his table, and looking at his buttons. And I overhear a couple of them talking about the show. And he said, oh yeah, they're lip syncing. Lip sync, I could tell. They weren't playing what was coming out of the speakers. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, why would we lip sync to such shitty music? We're lip syncing. Don't you think it would be a little tighter? It was cacophonous. Generally what I heard from side stage, listen to this. Yeah, as far as the music in these early days, one of my all-time favorite lines was, we were on tour. We did a show. I think it was one of those clubs. I think we did a club in Montreal. I forgot what club. It was one of our early shows. We were breaking out. We did a show in Montreal. and we did the show with Voivod. We did a show with Voivod, and that was one of the bands that Mike Bishop worshipped. Oh, he thought their instrumentality was just, their virtuosity, just next level, you know. And he always wanted to be taken seriously as a musician and always wanted to impress people like that. And so he asked one of the musicians for advice what he thought GWAR, you know, what GWAR could use to improve its music. And the Voivod guitarist said, tuning, timing, and tempo. Your band lacks these. Oh, tuning, timing, tempo, that's everything, isn't it? Really, you like break it down musically, that's all of it. They had nothing, in other words. They had not the tuning, the timing, or the tempo. They lack these. I remember Bishop repeating that, laughing, half crying, you know. He had to laugh, but still, I know. He felt devastated to hear that. Gosh, what an awful racket, says none of your business. That was never right. You know, people thought that was an acronym for GWAR. GWAR was an acronym for that. And the story, that was one of the things that taught me an early example of why you don't trust the media. So some DC reporter, I guess he saw a show at 930 Club or something like that. And he did an article about GWAR in the music section. And he had declared that was, you know, in a declarative way, he wrote that that's what the name of the band was, God, What a Racket. GWAR, which stands for God, What a Racket. And that's the way he phrased it. And so, you know, back in those days, everybody goes on, I guess you go to the library or use that whatever thing that can search up, you know, present day, current media about a subject. And so they would come across, they'd want to do some research on GWAR when they were doing a local article for their, you know, local, you know, sound zine, whatever, local entertainment section of their town. And so the first thing they'd come across is the Washington article and that statement, GWAR, which is God, What a Racket, and they would repeat it as if it was fact. And it was repeated as fact even into, I think, the Encyclopedia of Heavy Metal. I'm pretty sure it's in there. It's in the Encyclopedia of Heavy Metal, and they repeat it as if it is fact. So irritating because, you know, at any point in time, you can ask GWAR what it stands for. And it stands for nothing. It was a power word, which originally that was the conception. I believe it was, best as we could figure out, it was Tim Meadows. Tim Meadows, I believe, who was the lead singer for a while with a band called Armpit that Dave had. It was one of his side project bands, and he had a lot of them. Armpit, Derriere, all these different kinds of bands. But Tim, was it Tim Meadows or Tim something? Jeez, I can't remember. Anyhow, it was just something he came up with. What should we call this band? The stupidest band in the world. You know, something like that. Came out like that. How do you spell that? And initially it had a lot of extra letters, and it got truncated down to GWAR to make it fit on a flyer better. Practicality, once again. You know, functionality, basically. Deciding how things are supposed to look. Because if you only got it down to 4 letters, that means the print can be that much bigger on a little 8x11 flyer that's going on it's readable from greater distance, the fewer letters you use. And so got shortened down to GWAR. And that's where the name comes from, but it means nothing. It's a power word. I thought GWAR was a word meant to help you go when you're on the toilet. That, I think, fits. Yeah. It's a power word. Whatever you need power to do. Whether it's to cleave somebody's head off or take a shit. You can use that word. You know? Kind of like a key in Taekwondo, you know. Chop. Choppity chop chop. This, of course, is Scott Krall, I believe. Look at him. He's really good with the double dildo nunchuck, man. He'd practice all the time with that. He took that seriously. Of course, he was always into martial arts as well. But Scott Krall is a great stage actor, comedic stage actor. He, of course, is GWAR. And he was the perfect person to build a large monster on. You want that. You want somebody 6'3", 6'4", and real skinny. Strong, but thin. And you can hang a lot of gear on him, and it'll stay in proportion, you know. Like if I wanted to make a character, a foam rubber Hulk or thing, I want to build it on a guy like him. Somebody who's real thin and strong, wiry. Plenty of room to add mass and stuff and not lose proportion. So this character, Bad Biker Bitch, was based on the girlfriend I pointed out in the previous show, last week's show, from the dairy, who went out with Chuck Varga for a while. I won't say her name, but she's a hefty girl. She had the big tits and the big ass, but she was also really, really demanding and assertive. And the relationship between her and Chuck didn't last long because of that, you know. So Chuck used to talk about her, you know, quite a bit. And eventually she became the basis or inspiration for this character that never fully went away. Bad Biker Bitch was always this basically human archetype. You could call her girl boss as well, but yeah. This a human archetype that never went away. And this is the other early human archetype that we had reoccurring constantly, which was played by Mike Bonner, and it's the Redneck from Hell. Redneck from Hell. Yeah, he's mad because you fucked with my sister. You know, he's sitting there. The Bad Biker Bitch is his sister, and now he's mad, and so he's coming after GWAR. Right? Now they're gonna have a fight. This is awesome. Also dangerous. And here's the thing: Dave was a scary character to have this kind of fight with. I think Matt McGuire has like 7 or 8, suffered 7 or 8 concussions over the course of his GWAR career. And one of the reasons why is because he'd often play decaps, which is a bad idea because he's already 5'10". So when you have the fake head and shoulders above you, you know, you're forcing Odorous to go kind of high. And if Odorous with the sword misses the face, if he comes in low and catches neck and shoulders, he's actually bouncing it off of the stuntman's head. He's bouncing that blade off of the stuntman's head, and that's where Matt McGuire would get a lot of his concussions from. Was low blows from Dave, you know. decapitating people. And it always irritated me, because to me, Mike Bonner and Bob Gorman were the two ideal decap persons, because they're short. They're short, and so when you put that extra head and shoulders on them, you know, they're just a kind of a tall person. When Matt McGuire would wear it, it was just a freakishly giant person. It didn't look right. And it was dangerous, as it turned out. Lots of, you know, fiberglass blades bouncing off your dome. Was he Skullhead Face? I'm assuming you're talking about Scott Krall. Yes. Yes, he was Skullhead Face. He loved being that character. He did a good job. I think overall I did a very good job. I love that tour. That tour is great. And I've got some live shows of that. I'm sure I can find at least a few. One of them. It's worth watching and talking about it, because the Skullhead Face tour really had a lot of great elements to it. Had a lot of great monsters. It had Flesh Column and Cardinal Sin. And of course it had Skullhead Face in it. And the aliens. And that was conceptually one of my favorite tours that GWAR ever put on. And the Vulture as well. Time for Death was one of the first songs Dave wrote as part of the second group of songs that would become with alternatives. And they did a demo with the alternatives, and this was one of the songs that was done with them. But they just decided to re-record the song for the Hello album with the Hello lineup. I gotta say, it's a good song, but it never got due justice, I think. You know, because the musicianship and the recording, production quality wasn't what it should have been when this song was recorded, you know. Needs to be a little more up-tempo. There's different versions. Sometimes it's at different tempos. Slightly faster is that. Now it's time for death. Ah, see, they changed the tempo in the middle of the song. That's interesting. I didn't know they did that. I've fallen behind on Rumble. I'm sorry. Microfiche. Well, they had a book. They had to show you where to look into the microfiche. You're talking about finding media, you know, research at the library, or newspaper, magazine, article research at the library. What they call that thing? You know, I remember when they made us in school learn how to use one. Boy, that was tedious. Kansas, there is literally nothing to do. When decent shows came to town, we went all the fuck out. We wanted those bands to come back. AE, it worked. It worked. And that's why the Outhouse had a legendary rep. Legendary rep. I mean, Blondie knew about it. Deborah Harry and Chris Stein knew about the Outhouse. I'd say the place that has the best acoustics is in Wichita was the Coyote Club. I saw a lot of bands there. Did GWAR ever play there? I wouldn't remember. Of course, I kind of stopped touring in '95. I did off and on a couple, 2008 and some other stuff, but
What is that? Why don't you tell me what that is? And don't tell me that you're pregnant.
oh, this is the abortion. This is us upsetting people. This is the kind of stuff that not everybody thought was funny. Dave loved to kill children. He was really into infanticide. I think because he was always worried that one of the, the way Brad saw it, he was always worried about the other band members getting girlfriends pregnant and having to miss tour time, which is sort of what happened, both with Mike Dirks and Brad Roberts. They both ended up getting married early. It's like, why would you get married while you're in a rock band? What the fuck, man? I never understand that. It's the same thing with sports stars. It's like you're about to go into a career that will make you a pussy magnet, and even if you don't want to indulge or cheat, you're sort of putting your wife through a lot of stress just knowing that you're a pussy magnet, Just stupid. It's like, it won't be long. You'll be able to do this for a few years and then you get married. Whatever. So those early years, the 90s, there was definitely, I can't tour for this period of time till the baby comes or something like that. Not against kids, love having kids. I just think it's just like, you're in not even a well-established band. You're in just a struggling band. You owe it to the other members to, be committed or get out of it, It's not the life of luxury. It's not like they could just hire a session musician easily, to do it. Captain Crunch. I'd say Rock Island was okay, but many UC cops hung out there because all the bartenders were dealing for the AE. There's another club, I assume, in that area. Some versions of songs on Bloodbath and Beyond sound amazing. Thanks. Some. Just that one album. No, I agree with you. My favorite albums are Violence Has Arrived and Beyond Hell. That's the era musically I like the best of GWAR. Even though I wasn't very involved in it. I just think that was when that was a good. Corey Smoot really helped evolve the sound, and him and Dave meshed pretty good musically, And you still had Dirks was very influential in writing that music as well. Not like it was just Dave and Corey Smoot. But Corey really helped give it that sound, and push the music in a more intense, aggressive direction, I would say. Especially after it went through a period of what was essentially kind of silly. It got really silly with Carnival Chaos and We Kill Everything. Music had kind of gotten self-indulgent. And that's what happens if you leave Dave to his own devices. Dave will take it in a very silly, kind of nutty way. And a lot of people appreciate that and like that. Fish fuck and, fucking an animal, things like that are very, very much Dave-inspired songs and ideas. But, when he's laying lyrics on top of somebody else's melodies, you know, I think that's overall when he's best. He wrote some good songs on his own, no mistake about that. Sick of You would be one of those. It's got that classic Dave Brocky catchiness. But if he dominates the songwriting on an album, you're more likely to end up with We Kill Everything or Fucking Animal, you know. I don't know if he wrote all the songs on those albums, but it just felt like that was the Dave, you know, very much a Dave-centric sort of sound to those albums, right? I love that about Dave. I do. I love the silly stuff. But at the same time, not everybody does, right? You know? Not everybody. So. Where you and Dave introduce random GWAR shows? What? Talking about the compilation video? I like that mad, self-depreciating clown, and clown like that clown, like Idiocracy of Dave's great. That was what Dave was all about. He was about into absurdism, especially. He loved absurdism. He was very inspired by Monty Python. Heavily influenced by Monty Python and early Steve Martin. We'll listen to those early Steve Martin stand-up albums, like Get Small, and, you know, things like that. Dave took a lot of inspiration. Think of, when you think of Oderus Urungus, you should think of Steve Martin playing a barbarian. He's, you know, more or less in a lot of ways. He's playing the character straight, but yet at the same time he's got one eye kind of winking at the audience. And that's kind of what Steve Martin did. Steve Martin wasn't your conventional stand-up comedian. He was doing a act. He was acting as though he was acting like he was a stand-up comedian. He was doing a parody, a very sarcastic, satirical parody of what stand-up comedians are or can be, right? And that's what Dave was doing. He was doing a very sarcastic, satirical take on a heavy metal lead singer, right? What if Steve Martin was pretending to be Gene Simmons? And you get Oderus, I think, more or less. Got a condo made of Stona. The Jerk is a classic. Dave Love, he memorized that first album. Memorized it. And whenever Dave's going into that, hey, he's doing Steve Martin. Whenever he's giving that sarcastic, fake inflected enthusiasm, he's doing Steve Martin. It's you know, other people don't realize it, but you know, if you know Dave and seen him develop as an artist and know what he was into, you could totally see it. You know? Oh, there you go. That explains the. There's the introduction. So we had two technos at this point, and I was trying to get rid of the. Pretty boy look, and so I made myself more ghoulish looking. It's kind of a Klaus Nomi thing. It wouldn't be short afterwards where I would eventually convert over to a hammer. My next step was to convert to a hammer hand. And a terrible singer, though. God, I'm a terrible singer. I'd convert to a hammer and put on the, you know, the Bozo Destructo clown face that I have now. You know, it was funny. I sit there and I watch these early shows, and one thing they had is tons of energy. it didn't look like stuff as much like we were pulling punches. And kind of we weren't. We really were kind of landing contact. It's just like wrestling. Work sells better if you are, you know, at least partially landing the blows. Now, I hate to say this. I don't want to denigrate the new GWAR, but new GWAR is like, stuff, you know. Everybody's old, and they're worried that they're not telegraphing the blow enough, that the other person won't be able to react in time to get out of the way or take it. So it's all, We were doing, you know, this stuff on video. We're doing flying double leg kicks and shit at times, you know. And we got hurt. That was that was the price. Doing good shows. I mean, everybody else is getting hurt in the pit. You know, you got to commit. We committed. There's nothing we weren't committed to doing. No matter how cold it was, how small the stage was, how crowded it was, no matter how sick you were. Yeah, you got the flu? Too bad. Take some NyQuil and some crank. You know, get on stage. Show must go on. That was always the attitude. We did a show. It was up in, I believe, Connecticut. I can't remember the place. And we all caught the flu. We were all deathly ill. It wasn't just a cold, bad head cold. It was a flu, fever, whole 9 yards. We were like death the next day, getting up out of bed. We did the show. We did the show. We drove on this cold van all the way back to Richmond. We got pulled over by cops. We made them sit on the cold outdoors, outside, you know, sick as dogs. Didn't matter. Show always goes on. Definitely the hardest working band in showbiz, because everybody had to double up and do more than just be a musician, you know. There's a lot of gear. A lot of goddamn gear to load and unload. Who got hurt the worst? Well, you just missed it, Gert, in that I was saying Matt McGuire had, I think, 7 or 8 concussions. He was a magnet for concussions. I got hurt the least. I feel blessed by God. I got hurt the least. I never got it. The only time I got hurt was 2009 European tour. And I was in the back as we unloaded the heaviest crate, and we had no, our tailgate, automatic tailgate wasn't working. And when the last part of that super heavy crate rolled off and I had a handle, it jerked me over. Oh. It was hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And I was trying to resist, you know, to make sure that it didn't hit the ground hard and break those casters. It jerked me over and wrenched my back. And it took, I'm thinking, 2 years or more to finally get for my back to repair itself. I spent a lot of money. I went to chiropractors, all kinds of shit, man. Sucks. And I had that sciatic nerve pain at the same time. And this is while I was with my my brand new kid. So I'd carry him around, try to carry him around, and it just act up even worse. And the pain, the sciatic nerve pain that went down the leg was so bad at times. I said, oh, now I understand why people can become suicidal. I now got a small understanding why people can become drug addicted or suicidal in a situation like this. It sucked. But, you know, it didn't last that long. I got through it. The way I learned to get through it, wrap yourself, wear a good back brace, and don't bend over. Just don't. Don't ever bend over until it's all gone, until it's all fixed. And then you only do it as little as possible, with as good as form as possible. No news flash there. I think everybody knows that. I found out though through that, the chiropractors in that situation are bullshit. They can't do fucking jack all. I end up spending $1,400–1,600 on chiropractic visits, and they didn't do jack shit. It's a pulled muscle. Chiropractors are good for realigning bones. My bones worn out of, my bones worn out of alignment. My spine, my vertebrae worn out of alignment. It was just one of those muscles connecting the pelvis to the back. Just probably got torn, stretched, whatever. And the only way you fix that is you don't use it, and it heals. But that was the worst that ever happened to me. Like I said, Matt McGuire, he got injured a lot. Danielle was one of the people that was injuring a lot of people, too. She had unerring ability to kick people in the balls, no matter what kind of costume you had on. She'd find your balls, kick you there. She wanted to make it convincing, right? Try to make it close. And she made it close, all right. I think chiropractors do more harm than good. Gert W., if it's a torn muscle, yes. Because they're sitting there, they're wrenching you around, That's not what you need. You need immobilized. You need hot and cold press and immobilization. And it's just got to be that way for months, and then you'll heal. Can't be twisting people around. That stupid dildo gun they have. They're going along the nerve like that's going to fix anything. It's not. It's not. No, looks like they like the show. They want an encore. No surprise. They knew we poured our heart and soul into that cacophony. They like it. Rice, rest, ice, compression, and elevation. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Anti-inflammatory steroids are a miracle in that situation, Sleazy. Thanks, Ron Paul. One thing I don't like is drugs. Muscle relaxants and stuff like that. I don't like drugs because it's too easy to become habit forming. You rely on it for the pain. Other than aspirin, Tylenol, ibuprofen, and Bengay. Bengay. Most inappropriate name for an ointment ever. That's back in the day. People didn't notice gay innuendos as much. All right. Got some lower back pain, Jim? Try this. Bengay. You've been gay? No, it's the ointment. That's what it's called. I already smoke enough weed. I don't need painkiller addiction on top of it. I'm right there with you. CBCs and THCs are probably your better pain relievers. So this is Mike Bishop's first singing. This is the first song he sang. Cool place to park. Now we travel on. You like mushrooms, Sleazy? Says Baba Booey. I haven't thought about them in a long time. I've noticed that there's places selling legal mushrooms online. Somebody steered me to one of the websites. I couldn't believe it. Like, what the fuck? You could buy psilocybin mushrooms online legally? Crazy, man. But no, I definitely had some good psilocybin trips. I don't feel like I want to do any psychedelics anymore, though. Been there, done that. I was always of the understanding that, psychedelics never caused permanent damage. And then I saw some people who were permanently damaged by psychedelics. Yeah, admittedly, they became abusive of it, right? Did it a lot. But still, it changed them mentally, permanently. It's disturbing. They're never the same. They have chocolate bars and gummies that are psychedelic now, Baba Booey. Too much LSD will fry some neurons. That's what it seems like to me. We had this one guy who used to meet us on in the West Coast. I won't use his name or even a location. But he was infamous for having the best acid and a lot of it when he would hook up with a band. And that's one of the reasons why bands become drug addicted, is because people who like the band think that the best way to meet the band and hang out with the band is to offer the band drugs. And the reason why they think this is because it usually works. They're correct. Yeah. It is one of the best ways to get backstage, especially if it's good, expensive drugs. This guy had acid. He had liquid acid and he had blotter acid. One time, he had this liquid acid. He was droppering it, dispensing it to the different members. Dave was a drug sponge. Dave could do massive amounts of LSD. He'd trip out for 2 days, just completely lose it, and you know, was one of those people, Lord of Chaos. It was like he was able to, you know, function. I'm more anal retentive, so add a certain amount of micage, then I get really upset. You know, I'm if the situation isn't super cool, you know, I'm likely to start going into my own head and freaking out. Dave was he was an LSD sponge. He could do any amount and just go into a fucking wilding, you know, out in the city, disappear for 2 days and come back and just like, yeah, this is awesome, you know. Not only survive but thrive is what it seemed like. But anyhow, this guy's got eyedropper fulls and he's squirting, and the one that hit Danielle's tongue was a massive amount. Well, I should have her on the show. I'll get her to tell the story. But needless to say, or maybe I do need to say it, she ended up naked, and we had to go find her in the city. It was Huntington Beach. I think it was around Huntington Beach, LA. You know how LA is. Nothing is really LA, and everything is LA because it's just a gigantic county. But there's all these places in it that people refer to, and it might as well be a different town because it's fucking so huge. But so she takes that second acid dropper, and it was this big stream. Everybody remembers reporting this. She's going around, he's dispensing this on the tongues of the different GWAR members. I didn't do any. Well, I don't know why I wasn't interested. I'm glad I didn't. You got somebody else dispensing the acid. You're taking your chances. Fucking blotter, you know, I'll take one. Oh, that's pretty strong. I'll take 2 or 3. You got somebody just guessing. Each drop is a equivalent of a blotter or more. You're gonna, yeah, you're taking a chance as well. Yale flipped out. She ended up nude and almost homeless. She's lucky something really bad didn't happen to her. We managed to fetch her and get her back. But the other acid trip story was this guy, same guy. He's hanging out with us, and sometimes he'd hang with us and go to some of the shows because he was like a friend. And he'd serve as a free roadie, which we were not against. It's always nice. A person willing to feed themselves and just wants to hang out with a band and does help out and work with load in and stuff like that. Yeah, that's cool. So anyways, he's on the tour bus, and we're about to cross over into Canada. And he's going with us. And all of a sudden, you know, the report goes down, hey, we're going to get searched. You got any drugs? You need to get rid of them. And the drugs had already been removed, I guess. And then, for some reason, maybe he didn't know or he didn't get the word. But anyways, we're now at the border. And he realizes he's got all this blotter. He's got and so he crams like some absurd amount, like 2 sheets of blotter in his mouth. And then, you know, goes through the interrogation the whole time. And he doesn't change his demeanor because he's always the same. He's like he's tweaking. Just super like nice, but super intense and sweaty, you know. But I mean, that was more acid than anybody had seen one person do and survive, you know, go through it. But needless to say, I think he ended up doing time in prison. Nice guy, though, you know, but yeah. Maybe that's why I stopped doing acid. I didn't do much acid after that. Pretty sure. Pretty sure I didn't do any acid after that. It's called a dropper for a reason. Yeah. Well, he wasn't using it as a dropper. It was a turkey baster squirter for him. Oh, you want some? Yeah. It was your classic Northern Californian, though. It's like what you would expect will turn into a total homeless San Francisco, you know, drug casualty. Sad when you think about it. Maybe he did. Maybe he turned it around somewhere, but I have a tendency to doubt it. I have a tendency to doubt it. Well, there's the end of the show. I managed to talk through it and tell some interesting yarns and make you forget about the incredible noise. I hope I wasn't too loud. It looks like I'm redlining a lot. Strychnine is what makes you speed on acid, says iHawk. Fuck. If you do straight acid, you're speeding anyways. Even pure. LSD, 25. You do enough, it's intense. It is intense. Yeah, the strychnine is really can mess you up. Then again, other bad shit gets mixed in. Would stick to shrooms, says Bling Django. Well, the guy I knew who had the mental breakdown and got institutionalized was abusing mushrooms. The mushrooms will do it too. Any kind of psychedelic can do that. It can burn through some neurons, man. This is some after show punk rock. What? Look at them, they're all covered with blood. Post GWAR show.
Can I beatbox for the camera? Hey, Bob.
No.
What a great doc, huh? It's a really great slice of the GWAR experience, you know, from the fan point of view. What time is it? Oh, shit. This is almost a 3-hour show. I didn't know this thing would last this long. From here on out, it's just a VHS. Random shit from television. I don't know what... I don't know what... Look, there's some Saturday Night Live on here, on this file. And then
friends and I were celebrating the death of Richard Nixon.
This guy,
Now there's
remember him? I don't remember him.
Pressure in an
Joe
important
Piscopo
like this
doing Sinatra. I did like Joe Piscopo's Sinatra.
Mary, you cannot use reason in a situation like this. The issue was not
All right.
live airplanes.
Uh,
The issue was, are you with the
anyways, you're not here to see that. We're here to close this out. And I think this is as good a place as any to close it out. We touched on a Hello Show. I think that, I'll keep revisiting different eras, because as I, come across other stuff to look at, and or when I get people to be part of, to do interviews with me, like Chuck and Delaney and Danielle, people like that. We'll revisit these eras with them. So I'll probably come back and do Hello multiple times, just from different points of view. I'd love to have Hunter on the show, just because he can talk about the conflict with me when he first came back. If he would open up about that, I think that would be great, because to me it's all water under the bridge. Hunter probably still partially hates me, but I'll always love him. Just the way it is. Of course, he's had animosity for Dave as well. So I'm in good company. Yeah. That was wild when he said that in the documentary and he left it in there. That was wow. He's tells it like it is, man. All right, thanks for showing up, guys. Appreciate. I hope you had an okay time. And I'll be back. I guess at this point, next point, I guess I'll probably run Phallus. That would make sense now. So I've jumped from Dairy to Hello to it'll be Phallus. It makes sense to watch Phallus because it's all over the YouTube already. But I was the effects coordinator on that, and those two movies, Phallus and Skullhead Face. And so I take that back. I was effects coordinator on Skullhead Face, not Phallus as well. I did a lot of the effects, but not the coordinator on that. I don't know who was. Oh, but I was the one who put together the production company, which was half stupid and half successful. Same thing with Skullhead Face. I ran into, I don't even want to say his name. He'll probably try to sue us. But the guy that got involved in filming Phallus, that's a wild story. So, and he's so paranoid, he'd probably watch the show and then get mad at me for saying anything. He's probably mad at me right now because he thinks the people will be able to infer who he is. So anyways, was Skullhead before Phallus? No, Phallus was before Skullhead. So, yeah, thanks for hanging out. I'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And it probably will be Phallus era, Scum Dogs. I guess, no, actually, I got to run Live from Antarctica because that's the Scum Dogs album. Phallus is the next step, come to think of it. Oh, Sleazy, you're in the band and you're already fucking up canon. Way to go. Yeah, the visual accompaniment to Scum Dogs of the Universe is Live from Antarctica. So that probably shouldn't be very hard to find. It's probably I could just run it on YouTube. Probably from everything here on out, I can just find on YouTube and run it and react to it. And then I'll get hit with a copyright strike. Those people have these films up for, who have no rights to them and they're running them. It kills me. I went to Metal Blade and asked them, can I You know, when I was trying to make GWAR TV, can we run phallus and skullhead face on there? And they said no. I said, they said, we're trying to do a subscription TV service ourselves. And they didn't want to give it to us. And of course, they never did. They never did. They never put up any kind of subscription service, anything. So stupid. All right, guys. Anyways, great hanging out with you. And yeah, I'll see you next week with, looks like, talk about the Scumdogs era. So, and then anyways, tomorrow night, as usual on Rumble, Sleazy P Martini, chicken out. No, don't do that. Don't ruin that character. All right, I'll see you later.